Scott Tansill, and I am thrilled to death to be back on News Talk 1110 WBT. Back on the airways. It's been a little over a year since I've been on the airways of News Talk 1110 WBT, and I've got a new message for you. The name of the show is Your Legacy Radio, and this has been a passion-driven focus of mine for a long, long time to create a show and a thought process and a business surrounding this thought process that would help individuals who are, and I don't want to go into a negative thought process with this term because I'm going to tell my story, and hopefully it will kind of lead us into a thought process that the term I'm going to use doesn't necessarily mean that it's a final term. There's a lot of different meanings for this term in my mindset. And it's revolving around someone who is affected by a terminal illness. The sole sponsor for Your Legacy Radio is River Wealth Solutions. What is River Wealth Solutions? It's an organization that I have created after years of taking a path of life to lead me to the age of 40 years old. But I'll go all the way back to the age of 5 for myself. At the age of 5 years old, I was affected by a terminal illness, and it was a cancerous brain tumor. Within that affection, I shouldn't use the word affection, but within that effect of a terminal illness that I was given 6 months to live. Now, obviously, I've overcome that 6 months, turned 6 months into 40 years, and that's we're here on a Sunday, that's by the grace of God. I truly believe that has happened in that way. But what it has led me to do throughout the path that I've taken within this life is to think about how every step matters and how every step leads to the next step, leads to the next step, leads to the next step, leads to where it is that we are all supposed to be within this life, within this journey, within this really a brief time that we have here on this earth. So what I have strived to do over my lifetime is to think about how can I affect others through my experiences with them, through times with them, and through just walking for a brief time within their lifetimes, their journeys, their paths. How can I enrich that through whatever means I have available to me, whatever talents I've been given and whatever I've been blessed with on this earth to have within my life? How can I transition that to help others? Well, the thing that I've done over about 17 or 18 years of being in business for myself is to think about what kind of organization could I create? How could I put that organization together? And then how would that affect individuals who are a part of that organization? So the organization that I've created is River Wealth Solutions. Within River Wealth Solutions, we help individuals, and I'll just tell you the mission statement of River Wealth. It is providing a more fulfilled life for those affected by a terminal illness. Now, the way that we do that is to help them identify areas of assets that they currently have that they can utilize to create funds that they need to make their life better as to where it is the season they're going through at this current time. We're going to talk a lot throughout the show and throughout the history of this show, the time frame that we have, because I believe that this show will go on for a long, long time. I believe this mission statement and this thought process of River Wealth Solutions and of Your Legacy Radio will carry on for a long, long time, helping individuals, not just the individuals that are here, but helping their families to create a legacy that they want to leave behind and that will affect generation after generation after generation. So that's my thought process with this overall understanding of what we want to do within Your Legacy Radio, but also within River Wealth Solutions. And we're going to, with a passion-driven focus, help individuals create that legacy that they want to leave behind. I was reading an article this past week, and it was talking about how individuals, as they get to that point of age when it's time to retire, they don't have the finances that they need oftentimes to be able to retire in the way that they would like to retire. They don't have the finances they need for medical care, long-term medical care, as far as nursing home care and just the health problems that individuals have as they get up in age. It takes a lot of money to be able to accomplish that in a way that most individuals want to accomplish it, and just to get the health care that they need to live the lives that they want to live. The other thing that happens with that financial situation is any money that they have, this article was explaining, any money that they have goes towards medical bills, even though it's not enough for the medical care that they want and need. It goes towards those medical bills. So when it comes time to leave this earth, they don't have finances available to their families that they had strived to leave behind to create the legacy that they wanted to leave. So there's a lot of different things that we can look at as far as creating the finances that individuals need and truly the assets they currently have that can create those finances. Like, there's one thing that I've been looking at a lot over the past probably 10, 15 years, and that's the fact that most individuals have life insurance, but they think life insurance is simply there to create finances for their family once they're gone. So their life suffers because of lack of funding and lack of finances. And oftentimes they get to a point where they just say, you know what, I can't afford this policy anymore, so I'm just going to let the policy go. What the insurance companies don't tell them is that policy can be utilized as an asset. You can actually sell that policy, create funds for yourself, for your family, do the things you want to do while you're here on this earth, and leave the legacy that you truly want to leave behind before you leave this earth. That legacy is in place and it lives on after you. So we'll talk a lot about that throughout this show. That's one of the living resource benefits that River Wealth Solutions works with individuals constantly to help them create and understand that they even have, because most individuals don't even think of a life insurance policy as something that's an asset to them that they can utilize in a way of creating the funds that they want to utilize on this earth today. I always ask individuals, would your family rather you live it with them or leave it for them? If you sat down with your family and had a true conversation as far as, okay, I've got finances that I'm going to leave for you. When I'm gone, you can enjoy that. Or would you rather me live it with you, right? And I know my family would say, Scott, we want you to live it with us. Because the memories that you leave behind with us in utilizing those finances today and while you're still here, that's what's going to live on. Not so much, hey, we've got $100,000 after Scott's gone, or $200,000 or $300,000. No, let's take those finances, utilize it today to create the memories. Maybe it's taking a trip. Maybe it's getting the proper health care that I need or the individual would need to sustain their life to a longer time period. There's a lot of different things that can be done. Maybe it's just living their life in a way of accomplishing things through retirement that they wouldn't be able to accomplish otherwise. Maybe, and we see this a lot, it's taking that capital and utilizing that capital for a certain medical treatment that they wouldn't be able to get otherwise to give their life longevity that it wouldn't have otherwise. There's a lot of areas that we can look at in accomplishing these things, and it's creating that living resource benefit that helps individuals to create that. So if you want more information on a living resource benefit, I'm going to give you a number right now. Write this number down. There's a packet of information that River Wealth Solutions will send out to you. This packet of information will cover all the different living resource benefits that are available to individuals, and it will help you understand these living resource benefits in a better way so that you can access them, create the capital, the funds that you need to live the life that you want to live. So the number is 866-500-2922. That's 866-500-2922. So we had a situation happen this past week that I kind of want to address here in the first segment. And then I've got someone who is actually on as a living resource specialist with River Wealth Solutions. Her name is Katie Boland. I'm going to bring her on in the second segment and the third segment. I want her to explain, as far as her position as a living resource specialist with River Wealth Solutions, what it is she does to enrich individuals' lives, how she puts those plans in place, and then what she sees them doing with the assets that she helps them take and then create the funding that they need to live the life that they want to live. But we had a dear, dear friend of ours by the name of Ed Moon, who actually passed away this past week. And, talking about your legacy radio, leaving a legacy, leaving a thought process, this individual was someone that every time you saw him, he had this glow. And he had this infectious smile that he would just put on his face every time you saw him, no matter what the situation was, no matter what he was going through, no matter what kind of things he was experiencing in his life. You never knew if it was negative, if it was positive, because it always looked positive. It always looked like everything was fine, everything was great. He enjoyed life, and he portrayed that through his smile, through his generosity, through his living of life, through his leaving of a legacy that we'll experience for a long, long time to come. And I just wanted to kind of talk about Ed for a second. And many of you who are listening to my voice right now, you know Ed, you know the things that he did, and you know the way that he lived his life, he portrayed his life, and the things that he left behind, not just for his family, but for anyone that came into contact with him. And when I think about what do I want to create with Your Legacy Radio, what do I want to create with River Wealth Solutions, what kind of impact do I want to have? I want to leave behind what Ed Moon left behind, to where individuals say, you know what, every time I saw Scott or every time I came into contact with River Wealth Solutions, everything that I had going on was forgotten at that point in time. Everything that I had going on was kind of just pushed to the side. And everything that I had going on didn't really have much meaning because I felt so much joy, so much happiness, and it was like everything was okay just because I came into contact with that individual, just because I came into contact with that organization. Because we're dealing with individuals that have a lot of things going on within their terminal illness status, affected by a terminal illness. And there's so many stresses that are involved with that thought process. This organization, River Wealth Solutions, will help them to take a lot of that stress away. Yes, because of the funds, because of the finances, but really because of the journey that we end up taking with them. Because we'll walk with them every step of the way throughout, yes, their affected terminal illness at that point, but also into the next season, and into the next season. So it's something that I see as growing into an organization that will be there for many, many generations to come within that family unit during the current season and future seasons to come, with a smile on our face, welcoming you, making everything else seem like it's nothing, taking that stress off of you over the time that we have with you on the journey that we walk with you. So if you want more information about River Wealth Solutions or Your Legacy Radio, call us right now. It's 866-500-2922. One more time, it's 866-500-2922. We'll be right back with more of Your Legacy Radio right after this. Welcome back to Your Legacy Radio. Happy Sunday to you all. As I said in the last segment, I'm really excited to be back on the airwaves of News Talk 1110 WBT and on WBT.com. I had some individuals text me and say, hey, where else can we get more information about these living resource benefits? And you can go to livingresourcebenefit.com and find all the information you want to find, because it's not just, we're going to talk a lot about the life insurance benefit that can be created within a living resource benefit thought process throughout this show. But there's a lot of living resource benefit. You can create one with your real estate. There's some living resource benefits that can create it in taking assets that you currently have and putting that into what's called a guaranteed indexed fund, to where you can actually have that managed over time. And it has upside potential, but then also downside protection, which is extremely important within this thought process of where we are within the financial markets, because the markets are highly inflated by a lot of capital that's been pushed out from Washington and all these different variables that have pushed the market up. Well, if you're reaching that retirement age and you want your capital protected, or heaven forbid you're affected by a terminal illness and you want that capital protected, it's a great way to put it into and it says exactly what it is, a guaranteed index fund. So it's guaranteed not to go down, but it also has upside potential tied to the financial market. So you can find that information on livingresourcebenefit.com. You can also call in and we'll send you the information. You can also speak to a living resource specialist with River Wealth Solutions if you call 866-500-2922. So there's a lot of information that we can kind of provide for you. We have a trained team that is able to help you identify the assets you currently have, help you also understand how to take those assets and quickly, within 15 to 30 days, turn those assets into capital that you need. So it's not for everybody. If you say, Scott, I got a ton of money in a bank account, I'm good, I need to protect my capital, so maybe it's a guaranteed index fund that I might be interested in. That's something we can help you with as well. But, there's always a living resource benefit in either protecting the capital you currently have, or there's a lot of individuals that need capital now, but they don't even realize they have the assets to create that capital. So we can help you with that. Call us 866-500-2922. And as I said, I've got Katie Bowling on the show with me this week. Very, very excited to have Katie on the airwaves of Your Legacy Radio. The first show, Miss Bowling. You're on the first show. And I said to Katie, I said, if this goes really well, you're going to be a co-host. So just understand that and know that. And I'm serious about that. But what I want to do is to kind of jump into a thought process with Katie just to understand. I understand the path that has brought you to River Wealth Solutions as a living resource specialist. But I want the listeners to understand kind of your path that has led up to being a part of River Wealth Solutions. So talk about your path to become a living resource specialist, and then I want to understand some other things as far as what the company does. But go ahead.
Sure, Scott. I was a self-employed business owner for about 12 years, and then moved into adult education, helping individuals, learn how to manage their assets, learning how to trade and invest and leave a legacy for the people that, they cared for, their families and their, children and their children's children. And by doing that, wanted to make sure that, continuing on, as they got older, to be able to turn, their assets into capital for them to use now.
Right. And would you find within that path, because you and I worked together in the education field, right? I mean,
we
we worked together for a couple of years, and I know the answer to my thought process, but I want to understand yours. Most individuals don't understand finances as a whole. I mean, they have a lack of knowledge and thought process with finances. Is that something that you kind of saw as well?
Yeah, definitely. A lot of people put it in the hands of money managers and people who really don't understand how to manage their own finances, let alone manage other people's finances. And then once they realize that, they try to take it on themselves and want to get educated in that field. So we help them do that. And then now at this point, we want to help them at the next stage in life and help them with resources to make sure that they're cared for, at the next stage when they're affected by a terminal illness or, want to make sure that that legacy is protected.
Right. And you were so good, and this is why I'd asked you to come and work with River Wealth Solutions. You were so good at helping individuals to create a legacy, be it to manage their own capital or just to get the capital protected, understand what it is they had, understand what it is they could do with what they had. I mean, there's we would have individuals come into a session looking for education, and they wouldn't even realize that they were involved in the financial markets. And this is where I saw a huge area of need as far as help with River Wealth Solutions, because if someone has a 401k and they come into a class that teaches them how to understand how to manage that 401k, but they say, I'm not involved in the financial markets, and we say, well, you have a 401k, where's the money within that 401k? Well, it's in mutual funds, but I'm not involved in the financial markets. Then that means that something more detailed as far as when they need access to funds and they have assets that they could utilize for that like insurance, like life insurance, they have no idea. If they don't know what a mutual fund is, most individuals have no idea that you can take your life insurance policy and utilize it to create funds that you currently need for whatever season you're in, be it retirement, be it just to live life, be it because you're affected by a terminal illness. And it creates the funds that they could utilize now. The insurance companies hate it, right? I mean, the insurance companies despise the thought process that we're even talking about this, because what over 90% of individuals do is they take that capital, or they take the policy, they stop paying for it because they get to a point where they can't afford it, or they're affected by a terminal illness. They want to point that capital towards something else like medical care, which is great, but they just let the policy lapse. And that's a great thing for the insurance company, but it's horrible for the individual who had that asset that could have used it to create whatever it is that they wanted to create with it. They have the money, it's their money, right? And they could utilize it for whatever they wanted to utilize it for. I'm talking right through your interview, and I apologize for that, but tell me why. I asked you to come on with River Wealth Solutions. I knew you would be a great living resource specialist, but what is it that drew you to River Wealth Solutions?
Well, 90% of all people look at life insurance as a liability. We're taught, that it's a liability, and few people look at it as an asset, but in fact, it is an asset, and we can utilize it when we need it, and you pay for it for years and years and years, and then when you need it, very few people realize that it's there. And I really want to make sure that people can leave their mark. They can pay for necessary medical expenses. They can take trips with their families. They can, pay for long-term care and not have to put a burden on their families.
Yeah.
So it's very important to know what assets you have when you have them and how to utilize them.
Yeah.
And so River Wealth Solutions is a great place to come to to be able to identify those resources, and we can help you do that.
Right. And as I said before, there's a host of resources that you can identify that all of you listening to my voice right now, you have at least one of them. And most of you have no idea that you have one of them. If you go to livingresourcebenefit.com, that's livingresourcebenefit.com, there's a lot of information about all the different living resource benefits that are available to individuals. If you have more questions than that, there's things that we can do to help you. That's what we're here to. We're not here just to put up a website that you can go to and find information, because a lot of you are going to have more questions than what a website's going to actually give you. We have information that we can mail you, and also have a class coming up over the next couple of weeks that you can actually attend, where we'll just dive into all the different living resource benefits that you possibly could have, help you identify the ones that you do have, and then we can get down into a one-on-one conversation of what it would take to turn those, if you choose to, turn those assets into funds that you could utilize for whatever you want to utilize it for. So if you call right now, you'll receive both. You'll receive access to the class if that's something that you want, but we'll also mail the information out to you that will help you identify the living resource benefits that you currently have that you can access for funds that you need. The number is 866-500-2922. One more time, it's 866-500-2922. When we get back, I'm going to continue the interview process, the thought process that we started with Katie Bowling, when we get back for more Your Legacy Radio right here on News Talk 1110 WBT and on WBT.com. Welcome back to Your Legacy Radio. This is your host, Scott Tansill. Sole sponsor of Your Legacy Radio is River Wealth Solutions. We've talked a lot about River Wealth Solutions, helping create legacies, helping create a better life for individuals affected with a terminal illness. That is River Wealth Solutions, and it's a privilege to be a part of the organization. It's a privilege to be a part of the legacy and the thought process that is created through River Wealth Solutions. River Wealth Solutions has affiliate partners, so there's a lot of different areas through living resource benefits that can be created, and through its affiliate partners, these living resource benefits are created. Now, the benefit, keep using that word, the benefit to an individual in working with River Wealth Solutions is, as I said before, there's so many stresses and focus points that need to be kind of demand attention, I guess it would be the best way to say it, for someone affected by a terminal illness, or just someone who is getting older in age and has maybe a caretaker that's taking care of them, and maybe it's a family member, maybe it's someone outside of the family, but there's a lot of focus points and areas of focus that need to be paid attention to. Not so much finding the funds that need to be found. So, one of the areas where we see that we can really help individuals and families is helping kind of take away that piece of what they need to do, but oftentimes there's so many other things to focus on, they don't have time to do it, and that's to identify the assets that they currently have, not just identify them, but then what do you do with them? So what we've done is we put together an organization to where we kind of quarterback the whole process, and we say, okay, just sit down with us and tell us about your life. Tell us about what you have going on. Tell us about what it is you're looking to create. We'll help you identify the living resource benefits, and then we'll quarterback the whole process as far as working with our affiliate partners to create the asset transaction into funds that's needed for whatever life situation you currently have. So I see it as being something that, yes, it's creating funds for the individual, but it's so much more than that, because it's what they can do with those funds that really leaves behind, again, the legacy that they want to leave behind. And if you want more information about living resource benefits, as I said before, you can go to the website, livingresourcebenefits.com, or you can call 866-500-2922. It's easy to identify the living resource benefits, but not so much if you're in the situation and you're so focused on all the other things that you have to focus on. So that's kind of where we come in. We can quarterback the whole situation, help you identify the assets, turn them into funds that you currently need. 866-500-2922. I've had a lot of questions about this class that we have. We're going to be holding a class every week for individuals that just need more than a website and more than something mailed to them. And there's a lot of individuals like that, have a lot of questions about the things that we mail out and then the packet of information that they receive. So that's why we created this class, to be able to sit down, and it's just like an hour and a half, 2 hours that we'll spend with a group of individuals such as yourself who need help in identifying the assets that they have and how to turn those into funds that they need. So 866-500-2922. Let's get back to the interview with Miss Katie bowling. And Katie, we left off as far as you talked about, okay, this is who I am, what I've done, my past history. This is why I'm with River Wealth Solutions. Talk now about some of the things that you've seen in experiences with clients in identifying their living resource benefit, turning that asset into funds that they currently need. Tell some of the experiences you've seen.
Yeah, the River Wealth Solutions family and our affiliate partners has been able to do some wonderful things. We've been able to help spouses stay home for 6, 9, 12 months with their dying spouses, and take care of them to be able to live out their last days. Not using names, but specifically a client who had a brain tumor, and they were living paycheck to paycheck, and otherwise would not have been able to do this. But utilizing, the funds that we made available to them, the wife was able to stay home and take care of her husband throughout those times, and they were able to make memories that otherwise they would not have been able to make. So that really is a special time in people's lives. And, in other situations, being able to keep a continuing care going on, or have someone coming into a home and taking care of, a grandmother, so that you don't have to put them into a nursing home or an assisted care facility. And that's a big thing for a grandmother, to be able to stay in their home for the rest of their lives, a home that they've had Sunday dinners in, and a home that they've seen their children in and their grandchildren in, and that is a huge thing for people. So it's moments like that mean lifetimes to people, and if you can continue that, then that's what River Wealth Solutions helps people to.
And even if they do have to go into a nursing home facility, there's a big difference in what you can receive in a nursing home facility that we found. And, it can be such a difference that, you could be on one side of the facility paying for your health care yourself, and it's like you're living in a palace. But yet when you outlive your funds, which over 50% of individuals who are in a nursing home outlive their funds, you're simply pushed down the hallway into now not your own room, but a room of 2 or 3 other individuals, where there's a sign that says, please don't let patients out the front door to get some fresh air. I mean, it's that, to me, and many individuals who get pushed down that hallway still have living resource benefits that they could utilize and access. But I'll tell you this, what I've seen, my experience with nursing homes is, and I want to get your opinion on this as well, Katie, is that the nursing homes don't tell the individuals, their job's to admit the individual into the nursing home. It's not to help them identify the living resource benefits that they have. You would think it is, but it's not. In fact, I heard from a financial advisor that most of his clients who go into a nursing home, he suggested, and I was amazed at this. This goes back to a whole different thing that we can't even get into today, and that's find the right financial advisor if you're going to have one. Understand who they are and the input they're giving you. But he said he tells his client that they should just let their policy go back to the insurance company, put all the money into the nursing home care. Now, that seems on the surface to possibly be an okay advice suggestion, right? But when you think about that policy may have had $50, $100, $200, $300,000 worth of value that they just gave back to the insurance company, and it all depends on the situation, how much the policy is, and all those different parameters that go into it. But they could have used those assets to stay in the palace side of the nursing home, get better care, opposed to going to where you're on Medicaid and it's just a whole different ballgame. Is that kind of what you're seeing?
Yeah, definitely. People are running out of money, and when they do run out of money, it not only means sometimes moving to the other side of the building or a smaller room or a room with someone else, but it could mean a whole nother facility.
Right.
And that could be, life-changing for people, life-ending for people. I mean, at that point in time when people are ill, when people are older, dementia, Alzheimer's, et cetera, they can't handle that kind of a change, and they decline rapidly.
Yeah.
So being able to protect the lifestyle that they're living and to be able to continue the proper care that they have is crucial
Right.
in keeping people comfortable throughout the rest of the days of their lives. And the facility that they're in versus the facility that they may have to go to is, I mean, it's overwhelming what you see in the levels of care.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's another area that River Wealth Solutions has created, is to partner with a lot of these facilities and to educate them. So we educate clients as to the living resource benefits that they have, the assets that they have to turn into the funds that they need. But there's also a lot of education that this organization has been able to create and do and will continue to do with nursing homes in the Carolinas, but also really it will expand to around the country, educating the facilities that these living resource benefits are available to the clients so that they can get the health care that they truly need for a longer period of time. When I heard that percentage, that 50% run out of finances before they run out of life, and we hear that all the time with retirement, right? I mean, we hear that all the time, you run out of money, but it's so much more, I don't know, it hit me harder when you think about not just are they running out of money sitting in the comfort of their home, they're running out of money sitting in a nursing facility that then automatically drops their health care to a level that shouldn't even be allowed in this country. But it is. It is there, and it's something that individuals don't know about, and the facility isn't going to tell you, hey, when you run out of money, we're going to you're not going to be on this side of the facility, we're going to push you down the hallway. They don't educate them as to that thought process, and even with us working with them, they still won't educate them as to that thought process. But at least we can educate them of the living resource benefits that these individuals have, so that hopefully we'll get a conversation with the individuals and help them identify those assets, to help them turn them into funds that they could utilize for their health care, to be able to at least stay on the side that they would get better health care with for a longer period of time. When we get back, and I want you to think about it, I want to dive into the thought process of, yes, River Wealth Solutions helps individuals in the season that they're in, but then what? Because I talked about in the first segment, I want for River Wealth Solutions and Your Legacy Radio to be something that will enrich an individual's lives, really, for the lives of the family, for a long, long period of time. I want it to be an organization that will, for as long as the family says, hey, I want help from River Wealth Solutions, that they will receive help in all areas that they want to access help within. Even to the point of, my sister has a good friend of hers that is affected by a terminal illness, and she's got a 10-month-old, and they have given her, which, life expectancy to me means nothing because I was given 6 months, but they have given her a year life expectancy with the cancer that she has. And her thought process is that this 10-month-old little girl that she has will not remember her, being that she's right at 2 years old when her mom passes. Will she have memories of her? And that kind of situation happens a lot, I see, in life with terminal illness. And it's something that I can't fix it, I can't stop it, but what I can do through this organization is to, as long as a family wants to be a part of River Wealth Solutions, we will hold events on a yearly basis, bring the families out to these events, and then honor the individual that has passed on from this world. We'll honor that individual to keep their memory alive. I think this is something that will carry forward for generation after generation after generation, and the organization as a whole will be my legacy, and the legacy that I want to leave behind is to create this organization, help individuals, continue to help their families, and then leave the organization behind to exist long after I'm gone from this earth, because we'll never beat that overall time span and thought process. We all meet that day, right? But when we meet it, what are we leaving behind? That's the passion that I have in order to create what it is that this business is destined to create. A living resource benefit is something that all of you have. It's an asset that you can utilize to turn into funds that you currently need. If you want more information about what is a living resource benefit, you can call this number and receive that information. It's 866-500-2922. One more time, it's 866-500-2922. Do this for me, because I should have said this in the last segment. We do have that that class, and if you want to receive the information and attend the class, be sure to tell them when they answer your call, hey, put me in the class that's coming up next week, and one of the living resource specialists will give you a call and get the exact date of the class that you want to be in attendance for. But at least that way they'll have it down within the notes that they take from you when you call in to receive that information. They'll mail out the information, then a living resource specialist will give you a call back, schedule you for the class, and we'll get everything in line for you. You can also go to livingresourcebenefit.com and read about all the different living resource benefits that are available to you. Find the one that makes sense for you, and then we'll help you to turn that asset into funds that you need. So we'll be right back with more of Your Legacy Radio right after this. Welcome back to Your Legacy Radio. This is your host, Scott Tansill, on this beautiful Sunday afternoon. Couldn't be more happy to be with you. Very excited about being back on the airwaves of News Talk 1110, WBT, and on WBT.com. Talking to you about Your Legacy Radio, your legacy, how to create it, how to put it into place, how to set it up so that it stays in place for generation after generation after generation. It's been a kind of a life path of mine to create a thought process and a show just like this, and then a business that's sponsoring this overall show and thought process. Your Legacy Radio is sponsored by River Wealth Solutions. We've talked a lot about River Wealth Solutions, the living resource benefits, livingresourcebenefit.com, that it can create and help you identify its assets that you currently have that you can utilize to turn into capital that you need, be it for retirement, be it for a special medical treatment if you're affected by a terminal illness, because we've talked a lot about that as well, be it for just creating the life that you want to create. We talked about in the last segment how most individuals run out of retirement or retirement funds that they've set away for retirement, and most individuals don't even have retirement funds set away for retirement. That's why they get to that point in life where they're supposed to be retired and they're saying, well, I'm just going to work another year. And why are you working another year? Why are you working another 5 years, another 10 years? Well, I really enjoy working at my job. Well, no, you don't. I mean, if you had the capital you needed to be able to retire, you would retire. And it's as simple as that. I mean, it's individuals that get to that point in life, and they don't have the funds that they need. And then as health takes over their life, then the health problems and the health situation becomes their life, and they never really got to enjoy the retirement years of their life or even that retirement thought process, because now they're focused. Now probably they quit working, right? They stop working and they leave their career path, but they can't enjoy their life because now they're so focused on that health situation, which oftentimes turn into being affected by a terminal illness. So we can help you. River Wealth Solutions can help you identify the assets that you currently have, turn those assets into funds that you need. It's called a living resource benefit. You can get more information at livingresourcebenefits.com. You can also call this number and we'll mail you information if that's more preferable to you. It's 866-500-2922. That's 866-500-2922. There is a class that River Wealth Solutions offers that you can attend, which is just a more in-depth view of identifying the assets that you currently have, the living resource benefits, and then turning that living resource into a benefit, which is the funds that you need to live the life that you want to live. Now, I have Katie Bowling on the air with me this weekend, and very excited about having you on the show. Thank you so much for taking out your time this weekend to do that. We were talking in the break about an article that you had read this past week, and I want you to explain it to the listeners, and it kind of ties into something that we talked about in the last segment as far as nursing home care and how it goes from a palace to not so much of a palace. Talk about that for a second.
I did, Scott, and without saying where the article exactly came from, but the article...
Come on, say it. Throw it out there.
The article was relating to the Medicaid issues in America, and kind of the healthcare issues in America for seniors. And what it did say was that we should put our senior population in jail. It said that they would get 3 meals a day, the best health care, time outside, and socialization, and that's something that our seniors are not getting in these facilities. And unless you're paying thousands and thousands of dollars a month, you're living in squalor.
Wow.
Literally. I mean, and to be able to say that our criminals in this country are getting better care than our seniors that have worked their entire lives and contributed to this the world.
Right.
It's astonishing.
They've contributed to the system, and the system is helping them, right? But it's really the facilities taking advantage of them, because the facility is a business, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the facility is a business. It's a business of receiving funds and then giving care. Mm-hmm. Well, business works in the way where when the money that's coming in is greater, you're going to get better care. Medicaid pays out, and they actually pay out a pretty substantial amount, but the facilities kind of almost penalize the person who's on Medicaid, and that's where the saddest part of that overall thought process, because some individuals, Medicaid's a great thing for them, because if it wasn't for Medicaid and it wasn't for the money coming in from Medicaid, and even though it is not the best situation, it's a better situation than they would have, right? But the individual that I am most, I guess, wanting to help is that individual that receives that care, ends up going down the hallway, but didn't need to. Mm-hmm. They had another choice. They had another option. They had real estate that they could utilize. They had funds that they could have protected and had upside potential and downside protection through an indexed fund, right? Mm-hmm. Through a guaranteed index fund. They had a life insurance policy that before they let it go, that policy had $50,000 worth of value. Well, that's going to get them, I don't know how many months, it depends on the facility, but it's going to get them more time with proper health care that they could utilize. And there's so many different things talking about seniors, because a lot of times individuals don't have to be affected by a terminal illness to go into a nursing home. Many times they're not affected by a terminal illness. They're just getting up in age, getting older, right? And there's so many things that could happen before they even get to the nursing home thought process, because we talked a lot about being affected by a terminal illness. Yes, a living resource benefit can assist that individual. What about somebody that's just in their 60s or 70s, and they have a policy that they get to a point where they purchased it 20 years ago when they had 3 businesses, and it's say a $3 million policy or a $300,000 policy, doesn't matter, but they get to the point of where they're 60 or 70 years old, they don't feel like they necessarily need that policy anymore, and they surely don't want to continue to pay the premiums, so they just let it go back to the insurance company. Talk about some of your experiences as far as working with that individual.
Yeah, I mean, that policy has an extreme value that they've paid in for years and years and years. And to just stop paying the premiums is just to give the insurance company money and make them richer. Mm-hmm. And a lot of situations happen like that. The kids may not need the money. The spouse is already deceased. There are a lot of situations where that occurs, and as the premiums get higher and higher, you just don't want to pay those premiums anymore. Yeah. So most people will advise you to let the premium lapse. Mm-hmm. But there are so many options out there. Mm-hmm. And River Wealth Solutions is here to help you identify those options and get the most for it, and we'll help you do that.
I've seen a lot of individuals that, they hear that the thought process of options, right? And they think, well, the really only option is I let it go or I get money for the policy. Well, no, what if you kept some of the policy? What if you had a $100,000 policy and you sold $50,000 worth of that policy? You got income for yourself by selling that $50,000 worth of the policy, or maybe you keep $50,000 worth of the policy, you let the other $50,000 go, and somebody pays your premiums for the rest of your life, mm-hmm. right? So now you still got a $50,000 benefit, right? But you don't have the burden of the premiums. So now you can use the money that you were spending on premiums to live the life that you want to live. So it's not always a matter of receiving funds, but it's creating funds. And I've said creating funds. Of course, a lot of individuals through a living resource benefit will receive funds, but I see a lot of individuals that just create funds that they already had. They were just putting it in other places. Well, if they understand through education and through proper knowledge how to utilize these living resource benefits properly, it alleviates that stress of lack of funds, because now the funds that they had and they were just putting in other places now come back to them, and they still have what they wanted to create with that life insurance policy. So the thought process doesn't have to be just get rid of the policy totally. It can be keeping a portion or just actually getting rid of it and using the funds for what it is you want to create. But it's not just life insurance. It's real estate. It's managing the funds that you currently have. It's creating that guaranteed indexed fund that will protect your capital to the downside and then have upside potential. livingresourcebenefit.com. Call right now. You also receive information identifying the living resource benefits that you currently have. It's 866-500-2922. 866-500-2922. That's all my time. Your Legacy Radio, Scott Tansill. News Talk 1110 WBT and on WBT.com.